G'day ladies and gentlemen, my name's Isaac Butterfield, this is Little Dicky, and on today's video, it's a tough one. It's a very full-on video to go into. We are looking into the death, the murder, and a lot of horrible things of a young man who a lot of people will remember who are watching this video, and if you don't, you're going to learn some very interesting facts about the story and what happened. And Little Dicky's been working on this over the last probably 3 weeks. She's written an amazing story, and Claire, would you like to take it away?
Daniel Morcombe was born on the 19th of December 1989. Daniel was a twin. He loved his brother Bradley. They did everything together along with his other brother Dean. Daniel also had a devoted and loving mother named Denise and a doting, caring father, Bruce. Together this family unit was truly blessed and happy.
They were, for all intents and purposes, a normal Aussie family. The Morcombe family lived in a sunny, sleepy town called Palmwoods in the Sunshine Coast of Queensland. This town is known for its family-friendly sort of area. That is what it is known for around that particular part of Australia, and it also seems to have a lot of young people living there. From what we saw, it's all young families and all those type of people congregating in the one area, which makes this tale even more upsetting. Now that we know a little bit more about this case, let's dive into what actually happened to Daniel Morcombe. It was the 7th of December 2003. Daniel thought he would get a start on his Christmas shopping and even get a haircut at the Sunshine Plaza shopping centre. This loving, well-meaning task of picking out the perfect Christmas gifts for his family just goes to show the loving and gentle boy that Daniel Morcombe was.
Daniel headed to his local bus stop to wait patiently for his son bus to pick him up and take him to the shops. It passed 1:35 p.m. and still no sign of young Daniel's bus. To pass the time, Daniel had found a large tree branch to draw in the dirt with as he waited. What Daniel didn't know was that he was being watched. He had been noticed by a stranger. More time passed. Suddenly, into the distance, Daniel's bus was finally approaching his stop. Imagine young Daniel's disappointment when his bus drove straight past him, not stopping, not slowing down, nothing. However, the bus driver noticed Daniel in his red t-shirt and phoned the other bus he knew to be 2 minutes behind him and said there's a young fella and a man needing to be picked up ASAP.
A man at the bus stop?
There was a man there too.
This is like the parents' worst nightmare. And also, like, for young Daniel, also, he's doing his normal thing. He's doing nice things for his family. He's going out. He's being like a young dude, going to get a haircut, all that type of stuff. And he's missed his bus, which is something that I would do.
Me too.
At that age. You'd just be like, I've missed my bus. And now there's a dude at the bus stop with him, and his bus drives past, and they're like, there's another one on the way. But, Daniel doesn't know that, so you'd probably get into quite a panic as a young guy. It'd be a very scary, scary situation.
But why didn't the first bus stop? Earlier on, a bus had broken down with passengers on board running late. They needed to be priority and dropped off ASAP.
The bus driver, following directions from his boss, dropped these passengers off without a detour. Fellow passengers have since recalled seeing Daniel's shoulders slump as their bus drove past him. Some even saying that they felt bad that the bus hadn't stopped for him. Also noting the grown man nearby, seemingly waiting for the bus. Some more time passed. The tall, skinny stranger that had been waiting with Daniel closed in, greeting Daniel and offered him a ride to the plaza. By all accounts, Daniel was extremely polite and kind, and it would be tough for him to say no to an adult.
Absolutely. I think it would have been really, really uncomfortable for Daniel to speak up and say no to an adult, especially a grown man. And I think he would have found it really, really hard to say no, and I think he would have just been being polite. Particularly
in a panic-stricken situation, like being left behind by your bus, you'd be like, oh God, okay, this dude's going to help me out and get me out of this situation. And I'd assume as a young fella, you'd want to get out of that situation as quickly as possible.
I think he'd also probably obviously have a trusting nature, I guess, too, from where he grew up. He'd probably think, oh yeah, It's just a local dude wanting to help me out. Reluctantly, I'm sure, Daniel gets into the stranger's car, who we now know as Brett Peter Cohen. In a flash, Daniel is driven off, not knowing the disturbing horrors that awaited him. It was now well and truly dark. Denise and Bruce Morcombe had arrived home. It was around 6:30 p.m. They had been at a Christmas party. "Where's Daniel?" Denise asked Bradley. Bradley explained that his brother left for the shops a few hours ago. He should be back by now.
This immediately raised the alarm to Denise and Bruce. Being late or not showing up was not in Daniel's character. They grabbed their car keys and, as a family, headed to the plaza. Maybe Daniel accidentally overspent and didn't have enough money to get the bus ticket home, fell over, got lost in the dark. All these scenarios are much more pleasant as to what truly happened to their son.
They did laps around the plaza, cinema, and surrounding streets. Daniel was nowhere to be seen. The Morcombe family decided to head straight to the police station and report their little boy missing. I think that we would have done the exact same, to be honest.
What do you do in that situation? You just go searching, desperately searching for them, and then you just go to the police and go, please help us.
You'd have to, I think, especially if it's so out of character, for like a little, not little boy, he's 13, but he's still little.
It's still a baby, though.
It's still a baby, and I just think if it's so out of character for him to go missing and not show up, I'd just be like, all right, we've looked, we've asked, we've rung, go to the fucking police.
Yeah, that's got to be a big scary moment too, is like going to the point where, okay, we need to go to the police now.
It would be awful. It would be awful.
The poor family. At the police station, they were served right away by Sergeant Munn. He began jotting down notes, Daniel's physical appearance, height, what was he wearing? This stumped the parents. They had been at a Christmas party when Daniel would have gotten dressed for the shops. Nor did Bradley or Dean. They didn't recall what he was wearing at all. Sergeant Munn continued with his standard questions. Was Daniel depressed, lonely, an angry teen? Bruce tried his best to describe their young, innocent boy through his eyes, how Daniel truly was, a gentle, well-behaved kid. Sergeant Munn took down some more notes, a description of Daniel and his family's contact information. He told them that they wouldn't be able to label Daniel as a missing person yet, but he would send patrol cars out to sort of start looking for him.
What on earth are the Morcombes to do now? Go home, have a cup of tea? What are they supposed to do? What they did do is bundle together, put their coats on and get torches, head out onto their property and begin to look for Daniel. Morning was now approaching. Daniel's bed was still made and cold. It had not been slept in all night. The time had reached 8 a.m. Already, the Morcombes were stood at the police station patiently waiting for any police officer to pull up and help them find their boy.
So obviously this is a small area, right? If they're waiting for the police to turn up at the station.
Yep. I know.
Horrible. Just after 8 a.m, Sergeant Davidson pulled in, invited them inside and took more in-depth notes. He then contacted the bus depot and got details from the driver. Daniel was seen wearing a red shirt and dark-coloured baggy shorts. The sergeant was kind and reassuring. He told the parents that their boy would be home soon, trying to give them some confidence that they'd be able to find him. The Morcombes were back home at 9 a.m. It was now day 2 that Daniel was missing. Over the next 72 hours, a search for Daniel would ensue. Media releases, TV, radio, photos posted on shop windows. Everyone was looking for Daniel. And it would, if it's a small town, people would be looking absolutely everywhere. Daniel's bed had been empty for too long already. And it's a very emotive word, cold, when you think about a bed. You know if someone hasn't slept in it. It must be a very tough thing for the mother and the father and the brothers. Brothers?
Yep. Two brothers.
To go and see that bed hadn't been slept in and that room was, exactly the same.
It would feel awful.
As when it was left.
Yeah.
Sadly, police became to suspect that Daniel had been abducted. With no leads about the skinny, tall man that was also at the bus stop, police began investigating registered local pedophiles. They all had links to known pedophile groups in the area, but a man by the name of Brett Peter Cohen would soon be in their sights.
Police were inundated with calls from Crime Stoppers, with suspected suspects from the public, but still nothing fit perfectly. The investigation into Daniel's disappearance commenced on the 8th of December 2003. A major incident room was established at the Maroochydore Police Station on the 9th of December 2003. Incredibly, over 22,000 job logs were created as part of the investigation that went on for a number of years. Each represented a piece of information or a physical exhibit that was investigated, and the findings of this investigation were recorded. The police report, along with annexes, extended over 10,000 pages, with over 100 police officers involved in Daniel's disappearance and, sadly, suspected abduction. Daniel's disappearance constituted the largest police search in Queensland history.
So massive. And as you said before, was it 20,000 job logs?
22,000.
22,000 job logs. So each time someone investigates something, I assume in the police, they write it in and all that type of stuff. Like, it was a big investigation into this young dude. Because I can somewhat remember it when it happened, and it was a huge story. It was similar to the William Tyrrell thing.
Yep.
People were they needed to know what happened to this young dude. Like, he just disappeared off the face of the earth, and people couldn't accept that for a number of reasons, obviously. Yeah,
they just seem like such a beautiful family too.
Yeah, and to find out
they seem so nice.
And we'll get to it in the end, but what they're doing now is amazing, considering the shit they went through.
Oh, among the many, many phone calls to police and Crime Stoppers that came in, one name reoccurred: Brett Peter Cohen. Brett Peter Cohen had a striking resemblance to the police sketch. The caller said that Brett Peter Cohen had allegedly offered an 11-year-old boy $5 to suck his penis. He was also a welder by trade, was known to drive a white four-wheel drive, and had spent time in prison. But who was this man, the suspect, and ultimately the murderer?
So he's obviously a dodgy dude.
Extremely.
I know you're going to get into why he was in prison for a while, but I know this part of the story, and the fact that he was even allowed out of jail is insane.
Our justice system is fucked.
Like, crazy.
Yeah, no, he was a piece of shit.
100% a piece of shit. And one of these people that, when you consider the death penalty not being legal here, like, you start to wonder maybe it should be for a lot of situations.
Absolutely. Brett Peter Cohen was born on the 18th of September 1969 in Bunbury, Western Australia, into a relatively strict Catholic household. He was the third of 4 boys. Their father was away from home very often as he was in the army. He also suffered from PTSD in the early 1970s. The Cohen family wanted to start fresh, so they relocated to Brisbane and eventually settling in the suburb of Everton Park. Cohen's mother, Marlene, was a hard-working RSL worker and by all accounts a very decent woman and caring mother.
However, something must have gone wrong. Something must have snapped. How did this young boy from a relatively normal home turn into a depraved monster? Here's a little bit more about him. Brett Peter Cohen attended Marcellin College, now known as Mount Maria College, an independent Catholic high school in Mitchelton, North Side, Brisbane. It is worth noting, and this is fucked up, that Cohen's Year 9 teacher recalls Brett as a bully who taunted others and would disturbingly parade his erections around the classroom. He was despised by his peers, hated, loathed. He was a fairly quiet recluse, and he kept to himself as a child and a teenager. He also proved to be rather a handful as he continued into his early adolescence. Brett Peter Cohen's problems escalated into petty crimes and regular drug use. He later told police he frequently used cocaine and LSD.
His theft and continued drug use led to several arrests, resulting in community service sessions. At this time, Cohen was 18 years old and attending his regular community service appointment when his depraved nature came out in full swing. Cohen spotted an attractive blonde 7-year-old boy on the play equipment. He decided it was in his right to steal this boy's innocence, his spirit, and ultimately childhood. Brett Peter Cohen snatched up this boy, took him to the nearby toilet cubicle and raped him repeatedly. Just like that, he destroyed this little boy's life forever. What gave this monster the right, Over the next couple of years, similar sickening events occurred. Cohen was sentenced in 1994 in the Northern Territory Supreme Court to serve a lousy 7 years in jail. What's even more disturbing about this is that Brett Peter Cohen later tells police that he thinks his victims enjoyed his attacks and sickening sex acts that he forced upon them.
So he's obviously fucked in there.
On a child. He thinks they enjoyed it.
Do you think that his Catholic upbringing might have something to do with why he did these things? Because
Possibly.
They often talk about people who do sex crimes, particularly with young children, having that done to them as a child.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's just stereotyping people in the Catholic Church. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. If you think that that's okay to do, then obviously something's wrong.
I think that he was born evil, to be honest.
Fair.
I really think he was born evil, and I think he came from a relative, from all accounts, his family was pretty normal. I'm not saying that he had the best upbringing, but he certainly didn't have the worst. I don't think it's one of those cases where you look into it and you think, oh yeah, he was beaten, oh, he didn't get fed, and all these awful scenarios. He didn't have any of that. He was brought up pretty normal, didn't go without, and he just chose to become a fucking monster.
This just goes to show how sick and disturbed this individual was, and probably still is. He should not have been allowed out of prison. Let's discuss the incredible way in which Brett Peter Cohen, the Grub, was finally brought to justice.
Queensland police knew who was responsible for Daniel's murder, but they needed more. They needed two things, a confession and a body. Brett Peter Cohen was now 44 years old and had been a suspect from day one. It was April 2011. Cohen was on a plane heading to a new hometown of Perth. During his flight, he got rather friendly talking to a very pleasant young man sitting next to him. He and this man, Joe, exchanged phone numbers and met several times over the next few weeks. Joe was actually an undercover cop.
At this stage, I was still building a rapport and trying to build a relationship with Mr. Cohen, the officer Joe would later say at Cohen's trial. Joe had some friends, Fitzy and Jeff, who portrayed themselves as members of a powerful criminal gang whose mantra was loyalty, honesty, and respect. Cohen was given $150 to help his new friend and gang member Joe to stake out the arrivals gate at Perth Airport for a man the crime gang were interested in. In the following months, he was involved in 23 more crime scenarios, including bribing customs officers, trafficking weapons, illegal crayfish, and even blood diamonds from Africa. The monster Cohen, currently unemployed and now thriving in a gang, told his newfound friends that the easy money and mateship is what dreams were made of. I found the job I've been waiting for all these years, unaware that the conversation, like many others, were being recorded.
Cohen was then told he could make $100,000 on a big job, but there was a catch. It came to the knowledge of the gang that Brett Peter Cohen would be subpoenaed for another look into the Daniel Morcombe disappearance. In an upper-class hotel room in Perth, the gang's big boss suggested Cohen would be dropped like a hot potato from the gang if he didn't confess. The big boss and fellow gang members asked Brett Peter Cohen, "What happened with Daniel? Did you cover your tracks? Did you miss any? Was there any evidence left?" Amazingly, Cohen stated, "Yeah, okay, you know what, I did it." Cohen admitted to abducting, raping, and killing Daniel. Cohen's chilling and detailed confession was recorded with a hidden camera, and the video was played at his trial 3 years later.
Audio recorded when Cohen showed undercover police the bushland site where he dumped Daniel's body was also used as evidence against him. The teen's remains, sadly, were found almost exactly where the killer said that he would be found. Justice was finally closing in. This incredible police work captured this monster. Undercover cop Joe, along with the relentless work of so many other police officers, had done it.
At last, they could take a sigh of relief knowing that a slither of justice was made for little Daniel. Brett Peter Cohen now sits in a cell where he belongs. Here are just some of the incidences that have occurred over the years while Cohen's been in prison. A personal favourite, in the communal sitting room in prison, Brett Peter Cohen was playing cards with some of his jailmates when someone, a hero in our opinion, poured boiling water all over his crotch and shirt. Even the lowest of the low deemed this man a putrid monster. But what now for the beautiful Morcombe family? Well, this Beyond Strong family unit declared an incredible charity in honour of their Daniel. It is called the Daniel Morcombe Foundation. It raises awareness to online safety, stranger danger, and how we can keep our kids in Australia safe.
The website's down below if you want to go check out their work, and I encourage you to. What a story that is. What a horrible atrocity to happen to that family and people in Queensland and Australia in general. Like the fact that this dude was out, I assume, like crazy. Like, I mean...
How many times is this going to happen where people are locked up for doing these horrendous things and then they're given a slap on the wrist
and they're out?
They're out again, and then they go and find someone else to bloody torment.
So how long do you reckon this dude was doing weird things for?
Well, there was one report that I read that Brett Peter Cohen allegedly said to police that he began being sexually attracted to little boys at the age of 8 and that he lost his virginity at 9. Alarm bells.
Who did he lose his virginity? Do they know who he lost his virginity
Didn't
to?
say. But I think it was to a boy.
Was it to an older boy?
Don't know.
I wonder.
I'd like to know, that'd be interesting. And then there were other reports as well from his ex-wife, ex-girlfriends, partners over his life, saying that he was into really, really depraved sex acts and that he, one of the ladies that he was with actually went onto his computer one day because she was just getting creepy vibes from him, and looked into his computer, and there was actually footage on there of people having sex with a corpse with no arms and no legs, and that he wanted to then do this to her and wanted to simulate, I guess, these really creepy, fucked up things that he was watching. So Old Love went...
Yeah. Well, I mean, to wrap this story up, you know, look after your kids.
It's okay to be overprotective to a point.
Yeah. I mean, this is...
and with the TikTok age, with all the stuff online...
Yeah, we spoke about this the other day.
Yeah,
how many creeps do you reckon are on TikTok just watching the kids on there?
I think that pedophiles would just be laying at home now so relaxed because they have it all right on their phone. They don't have to go out to swimming carnivals and things and look. They can just sit in their stench fucking houses watching... kids on TikTok. I was swiping through and saw all these girls about 10 years old in bikinis doing these TikTok dances, and I'm thinking, I think this is wrong. Imagine this 40-year-old bloke sitting in his shed out the back with a bong and he's looking at these girls dancing around.
Yeah. It is, for adults, like for you or I, to come across that, it's uncomfortable. For them, it's like a gold mine. I mean,
is.
You were speaking about this the other day about when you were younger in like either wearing a bikini or whatever when you were a kid, like you got a lot of weird dudes.
A lot.
Like, what were they, yelling things out or...
I remember I saw a TikTok actually on the TikTok subject, and it was a girl doing that, that TikTok where it goes, I was running through the with my walls, whatever it is. Yeah. And her thing was when you realise you got more sexual attention as a child than you did as a teenager and an adult. And I just went, oh my God, because nothing happened to me, but as a pre-teen, I got beeped. I had lots and lots of creepy things happen in that way to me, like walking back from the beach. I grew up in a beachy suburb and I'd walk home with swimmers on and a towel. I didn't just like walk around in the nud. And I remember having truckies, old blokes beep at me. I was offered a lift home once past one of the pubs. And then when I had a little friend that I'd hang out with, she and I would go to the beach and walk home, and she got a lot of attention as well, and I think we were about 13 years old. I got far more attention then than I did when I was actually like hitting puberty. It's fucking disgusting.
I used to work with a bloke and he used to not yell out, but like say the most heinous shit. Like I would have been like 17. I think I was still at school. I'd work like on the weekends and he'd just say weird things about schoolgirls and that.
Yeah. As a schoolgirl, I got beeped all the time in year 10 too. Coming back, I'd go get like a coffee or some lollies or something from the shop. And it wasn't just like, lots of girls have had this happen. And you'd be walking to school and you just have like tradies just like...
Yeah, I know. But I think the thing is, like, there's monsters out there, and if you have enough people that you go past on a daily basis, there will be a monster or someone.
Definitely.
Even in a shopping centre, there's going to be one pedophile around. I think the lesson that we can all learn from the Daniel Morcombe case is keep your loved ones tight, look after them, but the Morcombes didn't do anything wrong. He just went and caught his bus. It's just unlucky.
Everyone should be allowed to catch a bus.
100%. They should feel safe, but that's not the world we live in, apparently, which is very much a shame.
The Morcombes know that too, and I think that's a big part of their charity. They're trying to say, hey, look, you don't have to, hold them like this, but you've got to be aware of all these dangers.
Yeah, and the psychos that are around. But thank you for that story. I think that was the best video that's been written on this channel. Well done.
Thank you, darling. I hope you all liked it.
You worked hard on it. Let us know in the comments what you think about it, and we'll be back with another video next week. Ladies and gentlemen, toodle au revoir. Bye-bye.
Bye.